Okay, very briefly, we're going to talk about effect size. Effect size has kind of become the standard for trying to explain the value of any given research findings. It shows the magnitude of the difference between groups to a way of indicating how much difference your intervention might have made. So, for example, going back to one of the studies, if we use cognitive behavior therapy and we discover there is a difference, that's important. But what that significant value doesn't tell you is how much difference there is. What is the size of the impact? Same thing with the reading intervention. Some change is because of what you did. Some of the change is because of other factors, some of which we know, some of which we don't. So we want to know exactly how much effect you have had on the population. So we said the p-value will not tell you whether or not a significant will only tell you whether or not a significant change occurred. It will not tell you the size of the impact. Just because there's a difference, that doesn't mean we had a large effect. And we can't guess at it. There's actually a way to calculate these. So in the previous example that we used with the null hypothesis, we discovered it made a difference. Now I want you to go back and look, but the mean difference between the pre and the post wasn't large. It was only 1 point. But the effect size is. So the way that you calculate that, and this is in this article that's going to be posted along with this video, is you take the mean difference, which was 1.04. I had negative there, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's the mean difference. It's its average of 1 point. And you divide it by the standard deviation of either of the two populations. I just happen to use the pre-post on it. I mean the pre-test. So that effect size is 0.07. That doesn't seem like much, but if you refer to this table on effect size, that's it's a very short video about effect size and what it is and what we use it for. Effect size shows the magnitude of the difference between the two groups. And it's a way of you providing to the reader an indication of how much difference your intervention made in the two populations. For example, going back to the reading intervention in the null hypothesis example, the scores change. Some of that change is because of what you did. Some of the change is because of other factors, some of which we know, some of which we do not. But we want to know how much effect you had on you by your intervention. So you conduct a null hypothesis test to generate a p-value. That will tell you whether or not a significant change occurred. It will not tell you the size of that change. Just because there's a difference, that doesn't mean we had a large effect. So consider the previous example of the reading intervention. It made a difference. The difference wasn't large. It was only 1 point. And it turns out the effect size isn't either. So this 1.04, if you look back at the null hypothesis document, that is the difference between the pre-test and the post-test scores. I'm posting this on D2L as well. And this shows you how to calculate effect size. And it gives quite a bit of information in simple terms about what these are for. But basically, you take the mean difference between the pre and the post, and you divide it by the standard deviation of either score. So that gives us an effect size of 0.07. A small effect size is 0.2. We got a 0.07. So it's almost as if we had no effect at all. So when I caution people about when they do a study, even if they find a significant difference, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily something that we need to do. And when you read this, I want you to read about this very short study about the effects of aspirin on myocardial infarctions, where they found a very significant difference. I want you to look at what the effect size was. It's an extremely small effect. So because this wasn't originally included, there was a lot of people who were advised to take aspirin who would not experience benefit yet we're also at effect for adverse effects. So this number, the effect size, is really important to include as well. So how do you do it? Well, you can, when you're running your own data on SPSS, which you'll learn how to do, it'll do it for you. Also, if they don't provide that, as I said, you can look at that article and it'll show you for any statistic how to calculate the effect size. So when you're reading your research articles, if they don't include it, you can do that for yourself. And that helps you determine the value of any of these.